Hi. Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I mean, honestly,
No worries.
not a lot of people do this. This is so brave,
Yeah.
honestly.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you said you work in sales and advertising, right?
Yes, I do. I work as a consultant now. I was
Oh,
working in the corporate field for a while because I was a stay-at-home mom for 12 years. And it was only after my divorce that I restarted my career at 34.
hmm.
So I
Okay.
started like working as an executive with 22-year-olds. My competition was 22, 23-year-olds. And I'm like, I need to prove myself. So I was in a very emotionally abusive relationship as
I'm
well as physical,
okay.
but it was mostly emotionally abusive. So I wasn't allowed to go out like without my husband's permission. I didn't have any money. Like if we need groceries, I need to tell him what we need, and he's the one who goes and gets it. To be honest, I didn't realize it at all until my sister told me. Everyone loved him. Like to the outside world, he was great. Like my sister adored him, my parents loved him. So in their eyes, he could do no wrong. And then my sister she was studying in New Zealand. So when she came down here, she started noticing little things. Like even if she wanted to go out with me, he wouldn't like it. I didn't realize my freedom, the person I am, was completely erased to the point where I was just a robot. I was just doing my duties, and that was it.
I mean, I guess it's also because it was coming from a person you loved, right? Because sometimes love tends to
Exactly.
blind us to the reality of the situation, and you think that they have your best interest at heart, even though that might
Exactly.
not be the case always.
Yeah. So I think most battered women have that. Like it's pretty much the Stockholm syndrome, but it has been identified as the battered wife syndrome, where we identify with our abuser and we think we are responsible for it. We think that what they're doing is right. There's a reason. To the point where when he used to be abusive, I'm just like, yeah, maybe I deserve it. Like, yeah, I shouldn't have done this. Like, I justify that to myself because that's the only way I can cope with it. I can either do that or go crazy. That's the choice I had. To be honest, I didn't walk out of my marriage. It's where he cheated on me. And then he decided he was done with me. And just one day told me, you know what, I'm not going to feed you anymore. Pay for yourself, get yourself a job. So we were married at that point. So I was like, okay, fine. And I had my pride left in me. So I was like, fine. Nobody was hiring me because I didn't have any work experience. The last job I did was at 22. So they're just like, what were you doing? I was like, I was a stay at home mom and I'm now looking for a job. So then my friend had an event company and
Mhm.
he's like, you know, you have the talent. I'm going to give you a job, but I can only pay you 35,000 rupees as a salary. And so this is me being a single parent because at that time my husband had left home. And I had to basically, my kids study in Mount Lavinia. My office was in Navala. So every morning I would have to drop them to Mount Lavinia. I lived in Nugegoda. So from Nugegoda to Mount Lavinia to Navala. And then after work, I go back because they were in day boarding at that time. So I go back to school to Mount Lavinia, pick them up and come home. So it was around 7:30 by the time our day is done. And then I come home and still cook dinner, get them to do their homework, put them down to sleep, and do the laundry, clean up the house, all of that. And I think by the time I go to sleep, it was around midnight, past midnight. I'd just still be in my makeup and cleaning up the house and all of that, and then wake up again at around 4:30, 5 in the morning, and start my day.
Ah,
Fall asleep. Yeah,
oh my
it was
goodness.
crazy. I honestly don't know how I got through it. So he wanted full custody of the children. His mom will provide for him and all of that, pay their school fees and maintain their lifestyle and all of that. So I sat down with the boys and I said, boys, you know what? I'm really struggling. And your dad can do this. And he lives closer to school. So the commute is less as well. So what do you guys think? And because I'm blessed to have kids like this, they did not react in any way. They were just like, you know what? You've done enough. We'll go stay with him. This journey was extremely lonely. It's where you lose your friends. So that is why one of the reasons that I wanted to talk about this is simply because I know I'm not the only person going through being slut-shamed as a divorcee. It's where your married friends start avoiding you, like stop wanting to spend time with you because they're scared, oh, she's single now and she might hit on my husband. Because, you know, it's a journey, it's a process, right? You lose weight, you start having more confidence. My best friend, the one who guided me through everything, like she was like a sister to me, and her husband hit on me. And I was just like, what is wrong? It's where we were at their house for a meal, and this was right after I was separated. So at that time, the kids were with me during the weekdays and with the dad on the weekends. So they had a lunch, like a whole bunch of friends on a weekend. So I was there with them, and then in the end, I was about to leave, but the husband said, "No, I want to sit and talk to you. Stay back. I want to talk to you." And he was like a brother to me, like, because we've been so close through the years. So I assumed he was giving me advice on how to how to handle things and all of that. So I was like, yeah, okay, let's talk. What do you want to talk about? And then he was like, he asked the wife to go get some water for him, and he kissed me, and in his
Just
own house.
just without any warning whatsoever, just
No warning. I was caught completely off guard, and I was like, "What are you doing?" I pushed him off me, and I was like, "What are you doing? What's wrong with you?" And I was in so much shock. That's all I could say. And then he was like, "No, she is very serious. She's very boring. I just want to have a relationship with you. Like, I want to feel loved." And I was like, dude, she's like a sister to me. She's been my guide through all of this. And what you're doing is so selfish because you're trying to take that away from me. And I would never, even in my worst nightmare, do that to her. I would never. And he couldn't take that because he's not used to rejection. He's a big shot. He's like, so he thought he'll flaunt his money, and he was like, if it's money you need, I'll get you a place to stay, and I'll pay for everything. I'll find you a job. And I was like, never asked you for any of that, and no, just don't even think about it. And then he did that the second time, and second time, same time. It was just
same
like he
day.
drank a glass of water, and he same time he drank that water she brought, and he wanted another glass. So she went again, and he insists that she puts ice cube, and she has OCD. She's super clean, so she would like wash that glass and refill it with ice cubes. So she's that clean. So
So it
he
takes
knows she'll
time.
take some time. So then he did that again. This time I pushed him off and I said, "You come anywhere near me again, I'm going to tell her. And I'm going to destroy your life. I'm going to destroy your reputation. So stay away." And then he was like, okay. And that's it. And I would avoid going to their house when he was around. And I was very nervous. And she started noticing it. And then once it was the kid's birthday, and I had to go. It's because it's the husband and the kid's birthday together. It's the
So
same
it's
day.
joint birthday, right?
Joint birthday. So she would invite her friends who have kids that age. It's not just the birthday party for the son.
Mm.
So I had to go for it.
Mm.
And honestly, I didn't know what to wear. And I actually told her, I, I didn't know what I could wear, but I told her, dude, I have nothing to wear for this party. I, I can't come. I can't just look shabby for this party and all of that.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, 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 no. I know exactly what you can wear. And she referred to this dress. It was a short dress, and I had lost a lot of weight. So it
Mm.
actually did look nice on me.
Mm.
She's like, wear that. She
Yeah.
basically dictated what I should wear. So I was like, fine, no, I don't have an excuse left. I was like a tail attached to her. Like everywhere she goes, I was with her. I would be around all the other ladies
Mm.
until they had a calypso band playing, and all the men were drinking in the garage. Until one of the friends who was drunk came and called me and said, Mekala, can you come here for a second? And then I was like, no, why? Why do you want me to come? I'm talking to them. Once I finish my story, I'll come. And I sent him off.
Yeah.
I sent him
Yeah.
off like that about 3 times. And then the fourth time he came in again. He came and called me. And then I looked at her. I looked at my friend. Now she has no idea of what happened before, right? So I looked at her helplessly, like, help me. And then she was like, go, go. I was like, I'm going only if you're coming. I can't just go there. There's a whole bunch of drunk men there. And then she was like, go, go, I'll come. Let me just sort the food out and I'll come.
Mm.
I was like, fine. So I went out. And he was like, Mekala, come here. And the Calypso band, he got the Calypso band to start singing some song called, there's a Sinhala song called Andinda Minigauma. It's about
Yeah. And in the mini
so,
gown, and in the yeah,
so
yeah,
this
yeah.
was yeah. So
Because you're
this is
wearing
a
a
short
shorts.
dress, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he gets this. I was standing there and I was just like, what is going on? Why are you doing this sort of
Mm.
look?
Mm.
And he asked, now my other friends' husbands are there as well. And they're really nice people. So they were just looking at me helplessly because they didn't know what was happening either. And then he gets some random person that I don't even know to dance with me, sort of like I am the entertainment. And so I couldn't be rude and just walk off. So I
Yeah.
was just, clapping to the song. And what what broke me was he actually lifted my dress at the end of the song,
Oh
and
my
I
God.
hit his hand and I just walked off. And because during that whole time, I was looking at my friends' husbands, like, do something, please, please, sort of look.
Yeah.
Nobody was there to help. And she was busy with the food. She didn't know what was going on here. Um, so then I just hit his hand and I said, hey, and I hit his hand and I just walked off. And as I was walking off, she was coming and she saw my face and she's like, what did he do?
Mm.
And then I said, no, I don't want to spoil the party. I'll tell you tomorrow what happened. And I told the boys, okay, boys, come, time to go home. And they're like, no, please, please, can we stay for half an hour more? And blah, blah, blah. So we stayed half an hour more and then I left. So the next morning, one of those husbands who were there, one of the wives called me and I told her. I told her the whole story and I told
Mm.
her what happened. And she was like, okay, can I come over and talk to you? I was like, yeah, sure. And I knew she was recording because she came over almost immediately. She left her phone on the counter and was on my coffee table and it was blinking. And she said, tell me the story. So I knew she was recording and I was like, fine. And I said the whole story. And
Mm.
I said, let me show you the screenshots of the messages. Because he would message me at like 2, 3 in the morning. I never replied. He would message me, ask me how I'm doing, what I'm doing, who I'm with, things like that. So I had the screenshots of those conversations as well,
Mm.
and I showed it to her.
Mm.
And she saw all of that. And then finally, she's like, okay, thank you so much. You're very brave to have said this because anyone else would have taken it and kept quiet, blah, blah, blah. And she went off.
Mm.
Then, about an hour later, I get a call from one of the friends in that clique. There were like about 6 of them. One of the friends called me and said, we decided that we have so many other divorced friends. There are two other ladies who were divorced. There are others who are divorced. We have so many divorced friends. He has never hit on any of them. So it's obviously something that you encouraged.
Oh my God.
And we decided to cut you out of the group. So all the friends that were associated with her, with she was like, she was actually very much like a sister to me. Like sometimes I would just, even during my marriage, we put our kids to sleep, and I'm like, oh, let's go to Pilau's and have a ice Milo. So, and we just talk random things. Almost every day we wouldn't watch horror movies without each other. I still remember there are times that we would keep my husband in the center and we would sit on either side and hug him and watch a horror movie. So we were like that close. We were like sisters. And then when she didn't even bother calling me, she got somebody else to call me. And at that time, I didn't have much money. So I think I had borrowed 15,000 rupees from her, and I was paying her 5,000 rupees every month to return it, because I was getting a 35,000 rupee salary.
Yeah.
So I didn't have much money. So this, I had paid her 5,000, and there was 10,000 left to be paid. And she gave me some of her designer dresses to wear for events. Since I was in events, I had to wear nice clothes because black. I had to wear black, and it had to look nice for corporate events. So she had some really nice corporate event dresses. So she left them to me, and she's like, okay, wear these. So these two dresses I would dry clean and alternate and wear. So she got somebody else to call and tell me that she wants those dresses back and she wants her money returned as well. And I was just in shock. I was like, yeah, I would return all of that, but what are you guys talking about? Why are you saying it's my fault? It's not my fault.
Yeah.
And then she was like, no, it is your fault. It was you encouraged it. So I was like, okay, you know what? I've lost quite a lot of things in my life. Losing one more person isn't a big deal. I'm okay with it. I mean, there's nothing else. I might as well accept it with my head on my shoulders, head held high, actually. So I
Yeah.
agreed to that, and then they just all just completely cut me off. Like unfriended me on FB, stopped following me on Instagram. They wouldn't call. They removed me from all their WhatsApp chats, and they just pretend like they don't know me. Like she doesn't even look at me. I see her in supermarkets sometimes because we still live close by to each other. So I would like run to her at supermarkets, and she pretends like she doesn't know me.
Wow.
From hanging out every day. And the sad part is it was never my fault. And then she sent me a message about 6 months later saying that she prayed over this and she decided to forgive me. And I'm just sitting there going, what are you forgiving me for? Like, you should be asking me for forgiveness. But
Yeah.
okay, if that works for you, all right. So I so that's when I learned to cut out all the negativity from my life, the negative people. But in general, what I realized is when you are a divorcee, you are regarded as, the best way to say it is, used goods. Like, you don't have feelings, you don't have the right to start your life again. And the level of harassment you will get from people, the social stigma attached with being a divorcee in this country is unbelievable. Like, I can't go on a date, I will be labeled as a slut. Thankfully, I don't care what the rest of the world thinks. And as long as I know who I am, as long as, like, my mom has been like, Aki, you need to be a little more careful. I don't want people coming back and telling me stuff about you. I have to face society. And I was like, Ma, did any of those people feed me when I was hungry? Were any of them there for me except for the two of you and Nangi? And she's like, no. And then I was like, then I don't care. I don't care what they think about me, as long as I know what I'm not doing is wrong,
Yeah,
as long as I'm not lying, cheating, or stealing from anyone, I don't care what anyone thinks.
absolutely. And also, I'm glad you brought this up because I've noticed, I mean, in particular couples that I know, right? Sometimes the domestic violence is at such a stretch that sometimes, the man injures the woman in a way where her nose, like I know girls who've had injuries where her nose has basically broken because the guy has
Mm-hmm.
decided to punch it because the guy got angry after drinking, right? But regardless, they still stay in the marriage there's because of the stigma and because of
Would rather stay in an abused marriage than be a
than
divorcee.
be a divorcee because of the stigma, and that is also a reason why there's a lot of domestic violence happening right now because girls don't use that freedom of choice where you can actually choose to leave a marriage. Here in Sri Lanka, if you get married once, then that's final. Hmm.
The sad part is most girls here, the reason they choose to get married is basically to get away from their parents,
Yes.
because they don't parents are so involved in their children's lives. I understand as a mom
Hmm.
myself. I mean, there's been times where I've told them, I love you guys so much. No girl is going to be good enough for you, and stuff like that. But, I wouldn't be that involved in their lives because I know what it's like. My mother-in-law, ex-mother-in-law, was so involved in my life, in our marriage, that even my parents, to a certain extent, even my parents knew everything that was going on in our marriage. In hindsight, I was young. I was 22 when I got married, 23 and 24 when I had my kids. So I was a baby. I was a baby raising babies, pretty much. So I
Yeah.
needed their support. I needed his mom's support. I needed my mom's support. It was like basically an entire family raising the children. But what happens then is that they tend to dictate terms to you. Nobody can help you unless you want to help yourself,
Yeah.
unless you make that first decision to leave.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think people realize the relationship between social stigma and women choosing to stay in such detrimental situations.
Mm.
When things happen, they just assume, they just go like, why didn't you leave him? Why didn't you walk out when he hit you? They don't realize the complications and the consequences such actions can have. And
It's crazy. It's the ripple effect
yeah.
of walking out on a marriage. When you leave, you have to make an entry in the police station stating
Hmm,
that you left your spouse for these reasons.
hmm.
The police will ask, when I said that he hits me, they're like, හැම මේ පවුලකම ඕක වෙනවානේ ඉතින් ඉඳලා හිටලා මිනිස්සු රණ්ඩු කරනවා පොඩ්ඩක් ගහනවා ඉතින් ඒක මහ ලොකු දෙයක් නෙමෙයිනේ මිස් ඒකට දාලා යන්න ඕනේ නෑනේ.
What the? Seriously?
Yeah, but later on they actually were better. Their intolerance for abuse um, is much higher. Earlier it was accepted.
Hmm,
Like, why are you still leaving? Why are you leaving him just because he hit you? Think of your children, is what
hmm.
they always say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first thing I would tell anyone who is going through domestic violence, be it physical or psychological,
Mm-hmm.
is it's not your fault. No matter what you've done, it is not your fault. I have
Yeah.
been beaten up for the food not tasting good enough. So I'm here to tell you that it's not your fault. Um, you don't deserve it. You cannot, there's no justification for someone breaking you, because that is what it does. Every time they hit you, or every time they say something to you, a part of you dies inside.
Yeah.
And eventually, over the years, what happens is you live like a zombie. I know, because that's what I was like. I was just going through the motions of life. I forgot what it was like to enjoy even the sunshine. I didn't want to leave the house. The first time I stepped out of my house after being separated, the first time I went into a supermarket, I was shaking because I was so nervous. He's not there to tell me, okay, that's enough, or we can only buy this much worth of stuff, or whatever. So I was shaking. I was so nervous. I was afraid to talk to people. I was, um, I thought I was really bad looking. I was like, because he actually told me that when I told him, when you leave, there's going to be a plenty of people who will try to come and pick up the pieces, and I don't want that.
Yeah.
So I've actually told him to stick around, like we'll stay in separate rooms. Let's try to make this work for the kids, because I was so scared.
Yeah.
My biggest fear, I think, was just of being alone. Like, what do I do? Most of my life is gone. I gave up my youth for this man, and now he's leaving. What do I do? Where do I start?
Yeah.
So I remember he turned around and told me, when I said that, there are plenty of people to pick up the pieces. And he's like, Mekala, have you looked at the mirror? You're not that good looking. And that, I've, that broke me. That actually broke me. And after that, I was like, you know what? If you want to go, go. That's it. I'm done. I'm done
Yeah.
with this. So all that breaking takes a long time to heal. I still suffer from anxiety. I'm not going to tell anyone that it is easy, but
Mm.
it's easier for them now to walk away, because there are people, there are institutions that help you. Women in need is there. They
Yeah.
have lawyers, they have counselors, everything, and it's free of charge. Had I had It was there when I knew about it, but I was too scared to walk in. And this these places are safe. They are there to protect you, and they will advise you. They will give you legal advice. They will counsel you. They'll help you.
Yeah.
um, Even the police, they don't um, believe in domestic violence anymore. They don't believe that people need to be hit anymore. So they have
Mm.
got training in that. And the people in the Women and Children's Bureau, they're very, very nice and understanding. So it's not as scary as you think, but that first step is always the hardest. After
Yeah.
that, it gets easier.
Yeah.
It
Definitely.
gets easier. But I'm here to
Definitely.
tell you that you will have relatives who will be, weary of you, friends who will cut you out. Even your parents will be embarrassed about the fact that you're a divorcee. But as long as you know that you're out of a violent situation, that you are safe, you can sleep at night without fear, there's no greater peace than that.
Yeah. Definitely. I'm just honestly I'm in awe of you right now because I personally know girls who are going through such trauma, but they're choosing to stay in the relationship because A, they don't want to go back to their families because the families were too controlling and the parents were too involved. Or B, they don't want to disappoint their mother-in-laws or their father-in-laws, because they've given up themselves as the daughter-in-law and they don't want to go back. And also the stigma. So because of
Mm-hmm.
that, because of all that, it's so crazy that you're doing all this by yourself and you're stable and you're
Yeah,
able to talk about it and be okay.
and the other thing is, like, if you're like, I didn't want to go back to my parents either, because I
Mm,
didn't want to be a burden to anyone.
yeah.
So I found a place that I can afford, and I got a better job. Obviously, you keep looking, you'll find it. there like there's always something to do. There's always work, right?
Yeah.
Current situation, yes, it's a little difficult, but our economy is such, there is always work. You will find work. 2 jobs, 3 jobs, even if you have to do, you can do it. There are plenty of places that you can find for 10, 15,000 rupees. So the first
Yeah.
place I stayed after my divorce, because I didn't want to stay with my parents, is basically, it was like a studio apartment. It was just the bed, sitting area with the TV, kitchen, and dining table. And that was enough for me. The bathroom was downstairs, and there was like a little washing area. And that was fine for me because my
Mm.
children only come on the weekends. And I was like, boys, this is all I can afford right now. And they were fine with it. As long as you're comfortable and you don't feel sorry for yourself, you
Yeah.
don't dwell in self pity, and you think you can rise above it, you're fine. It's just that initial first few steps. I know when I walked out of my marriage, it wasn't my fault because I did my duties as a mother, I did my duties as their daughter in law, and I know for a fact that I was a pretty good wife to my husband as well. I
Yeah.
cooked for him, I cleaned for him, I used to iron his clothes, I would make sure his clothes are laid on the bed, his shoes are polished, his breakfast is ready, and I knew I did my best.
Yeah.
But it's just him. It was him. It was that toxic situation that I should have gotten out a long time ago, but I didn't. Um, and when I did, it was such a release. Initially, I was scared
Mm.
of what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
Who am I? What do I like doing? What do I do in my spare time? Like I didn't want to be alone
Of course, no one
because
does.
I
Yeah.
didn't know what to do. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know what like I didn't know how to be alone with myself. And then little by little, I started spending time alone with myself. I started realizing, oh, I like this now. Oh, I like listening to this kind of music. This is what I like to do. I like going out with my friends. It's just that I couldn't. He didn't allow me to. So I would do all of that. And I didn't care what people thought of me. I didn't care. I mean, I'm in the sales industry. I was in the
Yeah.
sales industry. So you can imagine what clients are like. I've had male clients who have straight up told me, I'll give you this deal if you are willing to sleep with me. And I'm just like, no, sorry, not happening. So if I'm just going to go tell my boss that I'm going to change the account. Oh, I've had even colleagues hit on me. They just think the moment you're a divorcee, they have the right. And the fact that I was friendly, I was open, I didn't pretend to be someone I wasn't, that I think that gave them the idea that, or maybe maybe I can try my luck with her. Like she wouldn't get offended. Maybe she's willing to sleep with me. That's the attitude that they all have. What advice I can give anyone at any point in their life is surround yourself with people who think like you, because there are plenty. You're
Yeah.
not the only one. You're never the only person. People who think like you, people you enjoy being around. Don't force yourself to be around people you don't have to be around, basically, and cut out toxic people. Your life is so much better without them. You don't have to be popular, just happy.
Beautifully said, honestly. Wow. It's so nice to know that, I mean, personally, I don't see myself getting married anytime soon or in the future for that matter. It's so nice to know that, there are people who are, alone and doing it by themselves and still happy and content, and you don't need a marriage to feel complete, you know.
You
Sometimes.
don't. You don't, because you have so many things going on for you. I am blessed because I have two kids, and I feel that I need to show them that giving up is not an option.
Yeah.
And also, I need to show them that they need to respect women. I need to end that
Yes.
cycle with their
Yes.
father. They're very respectable of women, I can tell you that. And I've also told them that I would be the first person to slap you silly if you disrespect a woman, and they know that. They know that, and I feel very safe with my friends. And I think that is one thing that women need to have in their life, to feel safe and secure, because it's a crazy world out there.
It is.
You date the wrong people, you'll have your heart broken so many times. Because I think I have perfected the art of Einstein's theory of insanity. while you keep doing the same thing over and over again with hoping for different results. And I have gone back into dating people and I'm like, what went wrong here? Why am I? So, so I mean, you'll have your heart broken quite a few times. You'll feel lonely. You will go through all of that, but it's worth it at the end of the day to know that you fought for yourself, fought for your freedom, and you are safe.
Yeah, that's what matters at the end of the day.